If you were to lose balance on a handstand on the floor, it wouldn't be a big deal. Even so, new things are scary, and even if it doesn't seem like a big deal, anyone that hasn't tried a handstand on the floor will feel the uncertainty of falling. Now, imagine doing them on a high surface like parallel bars. That's like next level scary. So how do you bail on a parallel bar handstand? I'm sure there are more than two ways of bailing from a handstand on parallel bars, but in my whole year of handstand and handstand push-up training, I've mostly used two. The former I call it front bail, and the latter I call straight arm bail. If you ever tried a parallel bar handstand, you will know that the only way to get to the parallel bar handstand is through a press, either bent arm or straight arm. And in either of those, you can use momentum from your body to help you. That means that in contrast with the handstand push-up on the floor, which can be learned through a kick-up, the high parallel bar handstand cannot, unless you have your legs on the parallel bars, but they will be far from each other, and the kick-up will be so weird. Also, if you do it, the momentum could literally worsen the fall. The point being, you need strength to even get to the high parallel bar handstand. Before even attempting the parallel bar handstand, you need to have practiced the bent arm press on the floor, because going straight to it without any kind of body reference would be a bad idea. If you have ever done both a parallel bar handstand and a floor handstand, you will notice that doing it on parallel bars is far easier. One of the reasons this might be the case is because, compared to the handstand on the floor, once you are holding a bar from a neutral hand position, it all boils down to radial deviation and ulnar deviation. This makes the parallel bar handstand something like a 2D movement, in the sense that you feel that you are either falling forward or backwards, not sideways. Although there is always the possibility of it. But at least in my experience, I have rarely ever felt that I was going sideways. Also, I have noticed parallel bar handstand training has given me great brachioradialis. In a way, you are kinda like concentrating the pressure that you apply to the surface you are holding when you are doing it on parallel bars. Whereas the floor relies on divided amounts of pressure from your 5 fingers of each hand. At least that is what I think is happening. Also, most people don't have that finger press strength or the mind connection for the floor handstand, but they do have wrist and forearm strength. Let's say you don't apply pressure to your left pinky, and because of that, it will make the pressure of your right hand unequal to your left, which will mess up your balance and fall sideways. In my experience, this problem simply doesn't happen in parallel bar handstands. Most of the time, as you try to get to the handstand position on parallel bars, if you feel that you are going to fall, it is going to be forward, because backwards will simply stop you from holding the handstand. A successful handstand will lead to a fall to the back, like this. In this case, there is nothing to learn and no danger to prevent. As you do the bent arm press, you will realize that your body starts from an inclined position and slowly gets to a vertical position. In both positions, sometimes you will feel that you are going more forward than you can manage, and it is most likely because of the weight of your legs. The more bent they are, the worse this feeling of going forward is going to be, which is going to mess up your balance and force you to bail. The first bail I simply call front bail, because the only direction you can do this bail is forward. In this case, if you feel that the weight of your legs is making you lose balance and forcing you to move to the front, you are going to use that momentum in your favor to curl your legs to the front and downwards. And as you do that, you must release your hands from the bars and move your arms forward and upwards. The arm movement is simply to avoid them to sometimes get in between the parallel bars. The point being, make sure your hands or arms don't get stuck on the bars. Curling your legs and ending in a squat position is necessary to allow your legs to absorb the impact of falling forwards. Otherwise, you will fall to your stomach or face. You must use the momentum of going forward to your advantage, because going forward allows you to have a bit more distance and time on your bail, which will greatly help you adjust your fall. This is my most reliable bail that I always use on parallel bars. The first few times you do it, you're going to feel tremendous pressure and impacts on your legs and feet, especially if you never train them. That is when leg training will pay off. But generally, this is something you will get used to. This bail can be learned progressively, and along with its reliability, is probably why I consider this the best bail on parallel bars. You can first start on an initial position of a dip and propel yourself forward. Then you can go on with a bent arm tuck plunge. Then after that with a bent arm handstand hold. And after that you can practice the bell with the bent arm press attempts. And then you can end with the bell on the handstand itself. The only downside of this is that the only situation you're going to use this bell is on parallel bars, because this doesn't work anywhere else. The reason for this is that if you attempt this bell on a straight bar, for example, there is simply no room for your legs to curl and go forward. The second bell I call straight arm bell. I don't really know how to explain this one, but basically as you lose balance, you keep one hand on the bar while you keep it as straight as possible. While doing this, you redirect your body to where you are going to fall. Having your holding arm as straight as possible allows you and gives you more time and distance to redirect where you are falling. This one is probably the most useful one because you can fall at any direction, meaning that this one is probably the best one for a straight bar or any other surface where you cannot bend your legs forward. But I haven't found a way to progressively learn it. You either do it or you don't. Also, doing this bell on parallel bars is way harder and feels more weird than doing it on straight bars. But if you feel that you are falling sideways, this is probably your best bet. Now, there is a tiered bell, which I didn't mention, but it is because I don't recommend it. Sometimes as you fall forward, you simply could move one hand forward to simply stop yourself from going forward and preventing a fall. At first sight, this might look like the best bell, but the problem with this is that you put too much pressure on one wrist. This imbalance of pressure can really mess up with your wrist joints if they are not prepared. And generally, if you are starting on your handstand journey, this is always the case. It either injures you or it makes your wrist injury way worse. This wouldn't be a problem for someone who already has wrists well conditioned to pressures of this magnitude. But this is not the case in the context of most people who are learning this. Now, the situation you must absolutely avoid when doing a handstand on parallel bars is being at a bent arm position while your legs are moving so forward that you're about to be in a vertical position with bent arms. At this point, you cannot do anything. You either release your arms and use them to hug the bars and risk a shoulder injury, or fall and break something frail or worse. Despite everything I said here, you will never learn the parallel bar handstand until you try. All the words I have said kinda don't make sense until you finally try to apply it. It is kinda like watching a swimming tutorial while being on your bed. It simply doesn't make sense. You're going to fall and sometimes it is going to be bad. But most of the times, as long as you know how to, it is not bad. I will say that parallel bars are actually pretty safe because you can always bail to the front. You cannot get stuck with something in front of you. This is not the case with ring training. Your hands kinda get stuck on the rings and you can release them. And along with that, the stripes of the rings are in the way, so you are cooked. You know, the feeling of doing a handstand on parallel bars is a great feeling. It feels like a huge accomplishment because it is not only something physical, but it is overcoming a fear that has always been there. If freedom and self-improvement could be explained in a feeling, it would be overcoming your fear and doing a 10-second handstand hold on parallel bars.